Hi, I'm Kent. So far I've made one attempt at creating marbled pots using my slip casting process. That was a lot of fun and I liked the result. I wasn't quite happy with my glaze, so I want to try again. I also want to try using some different colors and see what happens with that. So let's try it out. Alright, so let's do some marbling. I'm going to do that in these two molds. I've got my black slip all mixed up. This is about 8% by dry weight of black mason stain. I've got regular slip in this container here. I've mixed both of them up really well. So I'm going to put a little bit of black slip in the bottom, and I'm going to put regular slip, some drops on top of that, and then swirl it around the inside of the mold. That will create the marbling effect. So I'm going to start with this mold here. Last time I did this, I dripped a little bit of the sides. That could actually show up in the final pot, so I'm going to try and be a little bit more careful this time. Take a little slip. Just cover the bottom. So that's not much at all. Now I'm going to take the regular slip and just swirl some into the bottom here. And again, I don't want to get it on the sides. There we go. So now I'm going to just tilt this up to the edge and roll it around. And it's the rolling it around where I deposit it on the edge. All right, and you can see a little bit of the swirl. So that's just a very, very thin layer of slip. So now I'm going to fill it up the rest of the way, and from there on, it'll be just like a normal slip cast pot. So I'm going to very delicately pour this in so I don't disrupt the slip. It looks like I'm not going to have enough. So I'm going to do what I did with some other pots, and I'm just going to swirl it around the edges so that I can build up the shell that way. Okay, so plan B. I covered the whole inside with black. I'm going to let this firm up for a little bit, then I'll put regular slip in and let that sit for longer, so it's going to be a two-layered pot. The inside will be regular clay and the outside will be the marbled effect. Not just because I don't have enough black slip. So let's do the same thing for this guy here. Put a little bit of black slip in the bottom. Try not to get on the edges. And drip in some regular slip. So it looks like that. I'm going to swirl it around the edges. So as you move it around, all that slip spreads out. That's what creates the marble. And now same deal, I'm going to slowly pour in black to fill it up the rest of the way. It looks like this one I can get to the top. All right, cool. So this one now I'm just going to let sit then. And this one I'll let dry for a few more minutes till it's a little bit tacky. Then I'll fill it up with regular slip. All right, I've let this one sit for a couple of minutes. I'm going to pour in regular slip now. So I got my strainer for the slip. Go nice and slow so I don't disturb the black slip, since it's still really soft. All right, that's basically full. All right, you know the drill. Let these sit, absorb some of the water, dump out the excess slip, pull out the pot. Cool, and here they are. So this marbled really well. Here's the initial side. It's more squiggly, less marbled. And here it's completely black. And kind of a similar kind of squiggly effect. That's interesting. That did not happen with my last marbled pots. I wonder if it has to do with the amount of slip. So this time I put in very little slip into the bottom. Last time I put in a lot more. So maybe I need to swirl the slip around a little bit to get it to mix before I put it up onto the side. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to try it with a little bit more slip in the bottom, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit more to see if I can get rid of those big chunks of white around the edge. So my black slip. And here's my white slip. I think the other thing I'm going to do is mix this up just a little bit, see if I can get some more streaks. Break up the big clumps. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. And then we'll fill it the rest of the way with black slip. All right, so I don't have quite enough of that black slip, so I have another one mixed up. This one only has 4% instead of 8% black. So that means the top may be a little bit more gray than the bottom. Maybe a cool effect, we'll see. All right, same drill, we'll let this sit for a while, then I'll pour the excess slip back out, and then we will demold it. Perfect. Oh yeah, that worked much better. All right, and here are all the pots. So this is one of the first ones I did. The surface finish on this is awesome. This is my newest mold, and so it's really smooth. And there's all the kind of squiggles. It looks like I just applied that to the inside of the mold. But over on this side, it's a little bit more marbled. This one has a little bit of a similar effect. Gets a little bit more marbled. Should burnish this one a little bit. I'm going to clean the surface a little bit, but that looks good. This one's awesome. All these fine little lines. I think that's really cool. But it's very soft, so I don't want to handle it much. All right, next stop for these, I will let them all get bone dry, and then we'll fire them. So these have all been bisque fired. I am going to glaze them in a clear glaze. I have my house base glaze I got from my local pottery shop. This fires clear. Last time it applied a little bit thick, so I'm going to try and put it on a little bit thinner this time. Also, this is a new addition for me. I've got a metal tray. This will let me pour the glaze onto the pots, the bigger pots in particular, and let me catch it. The smaller ones like this, I will just dip. So I've got a sponge. I'm going to do a quick wipe down to get any dust, but also slightly moisten the surface so it absorbs less glaze. All right, this one's all ready to go. It'll just go in for a dunk. I will put my finger over the drainage hole so it will displace the glaze. go a little bit deeper. Next one, same drill. So I know they go down a little ways first and then close the hole. Looks good. All right, so for the last one here, this is too big. It'll fit in my pot, but I won't be able to glaze up high enough. This tub isn't tall enough. So I'm going to try something new and pour the glaze on. So I have an old glaze container. I'm just going to use that as a stand. And pour the glaze on. We'll see how this goes. All right, that kind of worked. I got glaze stuck in the bottom. And I got some runs because of it. Okay, I'll brush those runs off later. And I think I'm going to dip just the top in again to get the inside of the pot. All right, great. So I'll let those dry, clean up the glaze, and then we'll put them in for a glaze firing. And in the meantime, I will recover this glaze. All right, and here are the pots out of the glaze firing. These just have a clear base glaze on them. I think they turned out really well. I'm pretty pleased with these. So these here are the first two that I did. So this one here, you can see the little bit of squiggles where I dropped the slip into the bottom and I leaned it that way to start with. So those kind of transfer through. To get over onto the other side, it marbled a little bit more. Similar here. This is where I initially dropped the slip in and then swirled it around. This was a bigger pot, so there was more space for it to swirl around. This is what it looks like with the just regular clay on the inside. I think that actually worked pretty well. It's a nice contrast between the dark and the light, so I might actually do that on purpose a few times. And this was the last one I made. You can see the swirlies. And this has much more of the marbling effect. So I think that's definitely recommended to do. Go ahead and swirl the slip around a little bit. Overall, I'm very pleased with this. So this was my second attempt at marbling. I inverted the colors. I like the white on the dark background. In general, I just like this dark mason stain black color. These are actually really easy to do, so I'll probably wind up doing more of them. It's nice to have a lot of impact with a relatively little bit of work. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please let me know. I'd be happy to hear them. Thanks.